Hi guys. So I was literally talking to myself for 25 minutes because it said it was on and it was not. I don't know what to do, but I'll have to change things up and I'll find a solution for you for next time. So I'm just going to start from the beginning. Okay. So let's talk about overcoming fear of failure. So we've just finished doing your personal inventory. That was the last exercise for you to do, was to take personal inventory of your life. So if I'm in control of my life, if I fail, then it's really my fault. So don't allow the rise and fall of your emotional tide to deter you from your course. So your life should not be an apology. It should be a statement, an extraordinary demonstration of the possibilities within us. Another way of looking at failure is to ask yourself, how can you use it to capture your success? So when things don't go to plan, then it generally means you need to make a directional course, right? So when you view your failures as opportunities for growth and discovery, you free yourself from the fear of failure. So this is the best thing that I've learned in Herbie, has been to do with how to handle situations where I've not got what I want. So what I mean by that is I've been taught how to see my failures or losses as lessons. Yeah, babe. So in any situation, there's really two outcomes, right? You either win and get what you want, do what you want, have it how you want, or feel the way you want, all that. Or two is you feel like you've lost, you failed, or you don't get what you want, you don't get, all that kind of stuff, okay? It didn't go the way you wanted. Very good. Okay, that's a nice boy. It didn't go the way you wanted, whatever. That's kind of the two options. But generally, if you just take it as, it didn't go the way I wanted, like, meh, and if you see it as failure as well and it's holding you back and all these kinds of things, and you see it as failure, but you don't do anything about it, then it sits as a loss for you. But for me, all I do is I ask myself, how can I learn from this? What was I meant to learn? Why did that happen? It happened for a reason, but why? What do I need to do going forward? What was it that I maybe needed to make a correction, or just understanding why it happened and that it's okay? Because then for me, I now look at every situation as a win-win. Because if I win, I win. If I don't win, then I'm learning a lesson. So for me, learning a lesson is more valuable than the feeling of winning. So for me, it's a win-win situation. Okay? So let's do an exercise called learning from failure. Write that down. This is your exercise. It's very important that you don't skip an exercise because they're all linked. And if you haven't identified emotions, or you haven't gone back and really realized why it happened or whatever, it's very difficult to do the next one. You're skipping, it's kind of like doing university and skipping the exams, all right? So learning from failure. What has been your biggest failure so far in your life's adventure? Think about it. What came out of that experience? What did you learn? How is your life now different or better as a consequence of this failure? Write down in your journal what you learned from this failure. This is huge. And it was very difficult for me to answer this. I'm just going to share, because when I did this exercise, I was like, I don't know what I would consider, and I had to kind of look at it. And obviously, having children young and getting into a mortgage and all of it, and obviously then certain decisions I made after that, it kind of all was like many decisions, that obviously left us in a really bad situation. So then but what I chose as my worst failure so far in my life's adventure was choosing to be a victim for a whole year. So the whole first year of Xavier's life, I obviously was still trying to get out of the situation and doing my best and still being happy and all that stuff, but also very depressed at our money situation, very unhappy with that. Daniel and I were then fighting more. I wasn't seeing any joys and things. I wasn't able to experience much because everything costed and I couldn't afford $2 for a coffee shop. I was spending weeks without eating, stuff like that, because I didn't have money for groceries. And that was where it was at. But the whole time I was doing the why me. Why don't I have a partner who could afford to take care of all of us? Why does Daniel's job not pay more? Why am I not being able to be that stay-at-home mom who has money there? Like, why? why me, why me, why me? Which obviously it was I was allowing myself to play victim, okay? And there's a story about Og Mandino. So some people know Og Mandino. And basically he went into the army after finishing high school. He didn't continue studies. His parents died and he went to, he wanted to be a writer but went to the army. And when he came out of the army, he couldn't find a job. And himself and his wife and his daughter became in deeper and deeper debt. And then they left him one day after, you know, obviously coming home every day. He was drinking and they couldn't deal with his behavior and his words anymore, so they left him. So he went traveling around just getting odd jobs just to buy the next bottle of wine. And one day he was staring in the window of a dinghy pawn shop, gazing inside at a small handgun with a yellow tag attached, $29. He reached in his pocket and pulled out 3 $10 bills. I could afford a couple of bullets. I'll go back on that room where I'm staying and I'll never have to look at myself in the mirror again. For whatever reason, Og did not kill himself. Years later, he joked about it, saying he was such a spineless person at the time, he couldn't master the courage. Hold on, tea break. I need energy after talking to myself for 25 minutes. As the snow fell that day in Cleveland, he turned from the pawn shop and wandered to a public library. Og entered the self-help section and began to read fervently. For several months, he spent almost every afternoon and evening in the library, reading book after book until he found one called Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude by W. Clement Stone, the chairman and founder of Combined Insurance of America. He was so impressed by the idea that he could think his way into a different future that he began to apply the principles to every part of his life. After becoming a successful insurance salesman for W. Clement Stone, he did what his mother always wanted him to do, and what he always wanted to do, and became a writer for Stone's company, Young Magazine, Success Unlimited. One day, several months later, they were short one article. So he went and interviewed Ben Hogan, a golfer, who had nearly gone from being in a wheelchair after a terrible accident to winning the US Open. Og ran the article in Success Unlimited, and several weeks later, he received a letter from a New York publisher who had enjoyed the Hogan article. He offered Og the opportunity to submit a manuscript for review for the publishing house. And, you know, the author's like, believe me, this is like a dream letter as an author. 18 months after receiving that letter, Og's first book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, was published. And that along with The Greatest Secrets in the World, was what this author, Andy Andrews, read over and over and over again as a homeless man underneath a pier. And he goes, it's amazing to see what's happened when that book first printed at 5,000 copies. Soon the total sales reached 350,000 and then 500,000. 30 years later, it continues to sell more than 100,000 paperback copies each month, with more than 40 million copies of Og Mandino's books sold worldwide. Now let's do an exercise called The Impact of Our Decisions. So to fully understand that you are where you are as a result of your decisions, do the following. Choose an area of your life from the taking personal inventory exercise that you did on Monday, and do 2 things. Number 1, reflect on the choices you've made in the past that may have contributed to your current situation. If you choose finances, consider the decisions that contributed to your current financial situation. For example, perhaps you have the choice of starting a business or staying in your current job. Or maybe you could have contributed more to your insurance or pension plan. The purpose of this exercise isn't to make you feel bad for your past decisions, but to trace your decisions to where you are right now. Remember, every decision not to do something is still a decision. Number 2, list at least 5 decisions, big or small, you have made or didn't make over the last 5 years that have contributed to where you are in that area of your life. And then what you need to ask yourself at the end of doing these 2 exercises are, do you notice any patterns? Are you beginning to see how you have a greater power to influence your results than you may have previously realized? And this for me was, I read the story that I'll post for you, A Defeated Washington. Washington is in George Washington. And he says, when we take responsibility, we realize that failure can be a classroom for the most profound lessons for success. So did not read, no, actually this book was about the similar time. Andre, please don't, thank you. To when I said I was in that self-pity mode. And I started to understand that that was obviously a choice I had made, and I had not made a choice to do anything about that. And it was like blaming everyone else. I said responsible decision was about, if you blame everyone else, it's going to be the same. Like, you can't do anything about other people and what's happening with other people, but you can obviously do something for yourself. So after I realized that I couldn't rely and I couldn't blame Daniel, who was working super hard and couldn't work any harder, like he was burning, the candle at both ends, I couldn't blame him. I couldn't blame anything else. I had to obviously look at myself and go, hold on, I've been in this defeated victim mode for a while, but how can I use this as a lesson? Like, what have I learned? What should have I learned? What could I do? And that's obviously when I realized that I became excited about learning from, my future failures instead of obviously being in this thing. And I let go of the fear of that failure coming back again, because I was like, it won't, because I know that it can be a lesson for me. So the next activity, crafting your ultimate vision. Many people complain about where they are in life. However, very few people know where they want to be. In the taking personal inventory that you guys just did the other night, you rated each major area of your life from 1 to 10. But do you know what a 10 is? What would a 10 look like for you? As you've heard before, if you don't know where you're going, it's quite challenging to get there. Or as Yogi Berra put it, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. Think about the overall lifestyle you want to create and craft the ultimate vision for your life. What will it look like when it's a 10? And here are a few questions to consider. Number 1, what will your relationships be like within your family, social, and professionally? Number 2, what will your finances look like? What will your business affairs look like? Number 3, what will your overall emotional patterns look like? Will you be a master of your emotions? How will you know when you're truly happy? Number 4, in what areas of your life will you grow the most? What will you attract into your life as a consequence of your growth? Number 5, how will you handle yourself in difficult situations? Number 6, how will you grow spiritually? So just some thoughts, embracing the gift of adversity. So I realized that an additional factor found in every single case, each person had to battle adversity. In fact, problems seem to be a common experience of great people throughout time. That's right, the stories of the wealthy, influential, successful world changers are constantly riddled with adversity. Each one presented with the challenge of accepting responsibility for his decisions and circumstances, and each one did. But I'm sure they were tempted to play the victim, as most of us are, and ask, why me? And, Andy Andrews said, when my parents died and I ran out of money and I obviously ended up under the pier as a homeless man, I constantly said, why me? Why me? Why is this happening to me? I woke up with why me? I went to bed with why me? I walked around all day long thinking, why me? My life began to change when I understood the adversity as a common experience of a great person. Instead of feeling sorry for myself, I began to get excited. I realized that adversity is more like a toll bridge than an insurmountable roadblock on the way to success than an insurmountable roadblock. My problems became less invasive. I no longer felt as though they were always going to be there. Unfortunately, many people run from their problems, not realizing that they're necessary stops on the road to the life that they want. This is huge. I always see this, a lot of people going through any type of issue, whether it's just they're upset that they ate a burger, to major issues. And they hide from people, they refrain, they pull back from people, pull back from commitments, pull back from work, pull back from relationships to deal with it because they don't want to deal with it, instead of obviously not doing that, right? So adversity prepares you for greatness, guys. So challenges are gifts. Problems present opportunities to learn and grow. In times of adversity, you don't have a problem to deal with. You have a choice to make. Write that down. From now on, when you're faced with a problem, it's no longer a problem. All that can come from it is now you have to ask yourself, right, I have a choice. It's just a choice to make. Okay? All right, just wait a minute. The last activity, because I think this was a big one and you've got quite a few activities to do. Just wait a second, bub. Is realizing your future identity exercise. So now that you've identified your ultimate vision in the previous exercise, ask yourself, who do I need to become to realize this vision? Albert Einstein said, a problem cannot be solved by the same consciousness that created it. Like it or not, you are where you are because of what you are right now. As a human spirit with enormous potential, you are bound only by your self-imposed limitations. Review your ultimate vision and then answer this question. Who do I need to become to realize this vision? How will you need to treat other people? How will you need to treat yourself? What will you need to read and study? What lessons will you need to learn? With whom will you need to surround yourself? What will you need to think and believe about yourself? What will you need to believe about those around you? Capture as many ideas as you can in your journal. And next session, we're really going to talk about how do you use everything you've done this point and move on to another tool as well about seeking wisdom, about a type of attitude towards people, and the power of associations, as well as who to learn from, and a really, really critical way of thinking and being is what we're going to talk about, which is probably something people haven't talked about, and how to also leave a legacy. So huge topic next time. So I'll see you on Monday night, 8 p.m. I'll sort out this live issue. I'll go check if I need to update some things just in case for the Wi-Fi pick up more. Apologies for that. I hope you got good value. Really make sure that you catch up over the weekend on any exercises that you haven't completed, because this is where you're going to get the personal development and the growth from taking a look at everything and obviously looking forward and creating that ultimate vision for yourself. So thanks for joining us, guys.
You did really good.